Hey there, Ryan Reynolds here. It's a new year, and you know what that means. No, not the diet. Resolutions. A way for us all to try and do a little bit better than we did last year. And my resolution, unlike big wireless, is to not be a raging and raise the price of wireless on you every chance I get. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited. See mintmobile.com for details.
This series contains adult language and descriptions of graphic violence. Listener discretion is advised.
I am pushing record. Let's check your volume.
Hello.
That sounds pretty good, I think. Hello.
Hello. Welcome back.
Welcome back to Death by Southwest. I think I'm going to stop reading that little intro that I always read. I don't feel like it. I don't feel like doing it. So, and I don't really know where to go, though, if I don't read that, though.
You could put in that, I don't know what the song is, but the Welcome Back Cotter song.
So shut up. In my head, when you said welcome back, I was thinking, welcome back.
Yeah, that's all. I mean, I'm sure most people were.
That's what I was just thinking. You know what I was also thinking is how we, remember we talked to Michael about yesterday? About the, like...
Him just reading ads that aren't sponsored, but just... Maybe it's Maybelline.
Yeah, just like, and we'll be right back after this commercial break. And
It's
then
funny.
we'll have Michael record like something for Maybelline or something.
He would like to do that because it has nothing to do with him. He doesn't have to say any personal stuff.
Right. But he still gets to kind of be involved.
Yeah.
I think it'd be cool to like do it for things that we actually like and that totally don't sponsor the podcast because we literally only have one sponsor at this point.
That could be anything now.
Right. But like, you know, some of my favorite, I don't know. I mean, like he could read an ad for Amazon. Mm-hmm. You know, not that Amazon really sponsors podcasts, but it would be
Maybelline I'd be happy with if they ended up sponsoring.
I'd be happy with any like beauty, hair, nail, like anything like that for sure. Athletic Greens, but they don't do true crime. They don't sponsor true crime.
Forget them then.
Yeah. I think it's funny. I want to come up with a list of different ones and then just sit down and have Michael like record whatever he wants.
He would.
And then we'll just stick them in. It'll be part of the podcast. How was your weekend?
Fine. Good. Low key. Laid back.
Mm-hmm. You know what my favorite part of the weekend was? Well,
Jeopardy.
yes. I was going to say it's a toss-up between Jeopardy and yesterday because yesterday was kind of fun also, even though I felt pretty tired.
I felt great.
It was it was fun. Me and Jenna watched a bunch of different documentaries yesterday. Michael came by. Mark came by. I made a bunch of unhealthy food. It was lovely.
I don't think it was really unhealthy.
No,
I
but
mean, you had like one pretzel cheese.
I made up for it though because I brought those to Mark's house, and then in the middle of the night I woke up and ate.
Oh, you made up for how
I ate very little.
It was only a little unhealthy.
Yeah, in the middle of the night. Then I was like, cheese-filled pretzels.
Yum.
And Jeopardy. And I don't know if we've ever talked about how much, at least I love, and I think we all love the Jeopardy game on Nintendo Switch. Jenna and Michael have a Nintendo Switch.
Yeah, it's good.
It is and I hate real Jeopardy. Like real life Jeopardy.
Yeah, I like it, but it's not as fun for me as engaging.
It's way
in
harder,
this.
right? I haven't really watched real life Jeopardy.
I mean, I think there's more. I don't know. Actually, I haven't watched it in a long time. So
yeah, me either. But I always felt like whenever it was on, like if I was at somebody's house and they had Jeopardy on, I was like, oh, God, this show makes me feel so
well, yeah, because I
stupid.
could never get them.
Right. But the game Jeopardy, it is challenging still, but I do feel like between the four of us, we do well.
Yeah. I've tried to play alone. I only get a few.
Yeah. I think you and me tried to play, and it has to be very specific categories.
Yeah.
Like Michael gets all the religion, history ones.
Mark just peppers in his answers.
I was trying to think, like, what category does Mark know a lot about? I don't know. The
He just
random
jumps
stuff.
in, yeah.
And I guess I don't know what categories either of. I mean, like
You
pop
were good
culture,
at celebrity stuff, cooking. I can't really remember what else, but
Yeah, I love it. That's what I really want to get as a Nintendo Switch. And
spelling. I'm good at the spelling because Michael sucks at spelling, but I don't think spelling was on there this weekend.
So that's our recommendation for anyone who has a Nintendo Switch. Go get the Jeopardy game. It's so fun.
I think it's free.
Oh, really? Like you didn't buy a physical game, you just download it on the Switch?
Yeah, like on Switch you can download most things. I can't recall if it was free or not, but you can download it. You don't have to go to the store or order the disc or whatever.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Have you seen, I know you're less of like a TikToker than myself.
Probably the most people.
Yeah, for sure. But have you caught, and it's not just on TikTok, I'm assuming it's everywhere, but like any of all this Jennifer Lopez stuff? No?
No, I mean, the last time I thought about her is when I watched that trailer, because she has a documentary and then a movie, and it seems odd.
Yes. So I'll have to, I'll send you like a video or two, because it's to me, it's hilarious. And I feel bad saying that because it's kind of like laughing at somebody's kind of downfall. But,
like you showed me that guy that commentates on it.
Yeah. But and I don't know if it's still, I haven't been on TikTok in a little bit, like a week or so, but for a minute there.
Does that mean you're probably going to have to cut this? Does that mean you haven't showered in about a week or so?
No, that's not true. But I'm not showering in that shower anymore. So what Jenna's referring to is that I bought one of those like waterproof phone holders that you mount on your shower wall. It's literally designed specifically for the shower, and it doesn't work. The one that I got doesn't work very well. I think it's meant to like put on a movie in the shower. So I don't know what, but it's not meant to be flipping, because eventually it becomes hard for me to flip through the
It keeps
cover.
it waterproof, but it's
Right.
not touch friendly.
It's not. I mean, it's supposed to be, but it doesn't work very well. But about that, because really the only time that I watch TikTok now is, in the shower. I don't know why. I enjoy it. Like I'm letting my conditioner sink in and I just flip through TikTok, but I haven't been showering in that shower. So,
If I was editing this, I would have cut off that last part of that sentence. But I haven't been showering, so.
Like that video that you saw. So Jennifer Lopez, for any listeners who don't know this, she made a movie/musical, and she tried to get it made by like a studio. Nobody would, so she spent $20 million of her own money to make this movie that she like wrote, I believe. I'm sure people helped her write it, but essentially wrote, and it's like a musical, and she like works in a factory, and it's all about how she's like addicted to love, but she can't find the right love. I haven't seen it, so this is all very general that I've seen from TikToks. And then she also made a documentary.
Like at the same concurrently, right?
Yeah, about making this movie.
Yeah.
And the movie,
And how she's kind of a love addict,
Right.
in real life. Or I don't know if she calls
Yes.
herself a love addict, but like something.
Yes. I haven't seen either, but I have seen about 150 TikToks about it. And she is just getting dragged. Like people, like the movie is awful, apparently. The documentary is super self-indulgent as well, apparently. And so not only are they making fun of her for this, but now people are going after her for being like, she was always like Jenny from the block. Like she like built her reputation on that she's just like a regular girl from the Bronx. And
She started as a backup dancer on
a fly girl.
Yeah, on well, move on. You're gonna have to add a word in there.
What was it? A fly girl.
I can't think In Living Color.
Yes. And so now, people like really hate this movie, hate how she's portrayed in it. It's all bad. And then based on that, now all these interviews are resurfacing, like this interview that she gave, I want to say Vanity Fair or something, like 10 years ago. And the interviewer's like, so what do you, asking her about her peers, like Gwyneth Paltrow and, of course, I'm not going to remember the other actresses, but some other like very Cameron Diaz, and she was like, has Cameron Diaz even done any movies? I don't even know. And then like about Gwyneth Paltrow, like, I mean, she's good at playing the role that she plays, but she can't like act like I can act. And then this interview with her and like Scarlett Johansson, like all these other actresses, they're sitting around a round table talking about Renee Zellweger and all these very famous women. They all are very lovely and gracious, talking about their own careers. And then Jennifer Lopez comes and just like literally interrupts every single one of them. Like, well, when I played Selena, and she just comes off as like so tone deaf, like so out of touch, so self like loving, like to a really unattractive degree. And she is just, I mean, like people are saying, and again, TikTok, so who the fuck cares or knows if it matters, but saying like she is, like she's done, like she's never going to work again. She is just,
she had a good run,
digging herself deeper and deeper into this hole, and like all this, and all of this stuff about her being really difficult to work with is coming out, which is true. That I do know.
Also, we should preface, or not preface, but whatever the word for
Postus
that you're not a huge fan of hers.
I am not.
Period.
And that is because
I feel nothing either way, but I did think that movie looked
awful.
Just like, was she on mushrooms?
Yeah, that's what it looks like. I had heard, I want to say I'd heard from Joe's daughter who worked with her, who was on like a movie set with her for a couple days, said she was absolutely atrocious, like not nice. And then we interviewed Alex Rodriguez.
Oh, because she was with him for a while, right?
And she was with him at the time. And like, you know, Joe and Oliver are so friendly. Like, hi, like, oh, hi, we're on Zoom with that. And like, we can see her like come into the room kind of. And I can't remember which one of them, but one of them was like, oh, tell Jennifer I say hi or something like that. And you could just see her kind of be like, no. Like she's just, I've heard from people who have worked with her that she is really a rude, difficult, ungrateful person. And so that, yes, I did not like her since knowing that. And then all this stuff coming out. So all this stuff coming out, I am actually like finding it incredibly entertaining and humorous, which is mean, but
I don't care.
I'm sure she'll be fine. I'm sure she doesn't care either. That's all I got.
Cool. Well, good night.
Bye, guys. All right. Well, let's jump into this episode. We're gonna forgo. I think I said this on the little update I put out last week. I'm gonna start foregoing the big sense of place because first of all, we've done a lot of these places, and today we haven't done this specific place in Texas. So I'm just gonna give you a very brief idea of where it is.
Okay.
And like the size. So our story today takes place in Jacksonville, Texas. Jacksonville is situated in the northeastern part of the state. It's referred to as East Texas. It's located in Cherokee County. It's got a lot of rolling hills, a lot of woods, has a lot of waterways, like little lakes, rivers, all kinds of it's a very water heavy place for Texas.
So I bet a lot of water sports.
Yes, a lot. And I actually had a map of it. And of course, now I don't have that right in front of me because I wanted to say where it is, at least in relation to like, so in relation to Dallas, it is slightly southeast of Dallas. It's really close to Louisiana, honestly. It's like that far east in Texas. It's about 522 feet in elevation. Population is around 14,000, so pretty small. Yeah. But it has a lot of interesting attractions. At Love's Lookout State Park, it has a 30-mile skyline that you can walk on.
Is that like a glass thing?
Good question.
Or you just maybe walk out?
Yeah. Lake Jacksonville is 1,300 acres. And it's like a boater and fisherman's playground is what they call it. They have 7,000 acres is the Neches River National Wildlife Refuge. And it's got the Neches River, tons of hiking. There's an ATV park that's really popular there. ATVing and four-wheeling is quite popular because it's very, rural type
Yeah,
place.
there's hills, but not
Yeah.
huge mountains and stuff.
Right.
Sounds like an kind of like outdoorsy place.
And the most interesting thing to me was that they have an annual tomato festival because I love tomatoes. I bet that would be delicious.
That's cool.
Think about all the delicious things you can make with tomatoes, and to go to a festival where everything is like based in tomatoes. Yum.
As long as you're not one of those people that tomato gives you heartburn.
Yeah, like that's Mark.
Sometimes it does. Well, it has for me.
Pizza sauce, I guess, gives him heartburn sometimes.
Yeah.
Not me. That's it. That is Jacksonville, Texas. And that's the most we're going to talk about it. So now we are going to jump in to the main couple in today's story, Patricia Sexton, formerly Bingham, and Bobby Sexton. So Patricia, both of them grew up here in Jacksonville. Patricia grew up in a large, tight-knit family. They all lived on something called the Bingham family compound, where like it was just a huge piece of property and like different trailers and little homes and stuff. So grandparents, like generations of the family, all lived kind of on this big piece of property. And she, so Patricia was very pretty. She was a beauty pageant queen. She did all different kinds of beauty pageants in Texas. Her family had a family business that was buying and selling junked cars. They would sell for parts. So she grew up around cars a lot, had a real appreciation for cars, and she fell in love with racing cars and trucks, not like NASCAR style racing, like kind of like rural countryside dirt road racing.
Oh, yeah. Kind of the difference between like, think about a road bike versus a dirt bike.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Can I ask what year-ish are we in?
Oh, yes. We are in the 90s is when this takes place. Her half-sister said she loved to do beauty pageants. She had God's gift of beauty, but she was also very wild and very promiscuous.
Also, I want to come back to that thing, but that's a juxtaposition of, which of course people are all kinds of interests, but beauty queen and
race car driver,
get in the dirt and ride your vehicle or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
Not race. I guess that's the distinction. Not race car. She liked to race cars. Like she had a truck what I read is that she had this truck and she would race the truck. So it's not like high speed racing. It's more almost like
kind of like monster truck stuff.
Yes, exactly. Mm-hmm. That's it. And she was apparently very good. She won most of the like official races that she entered.
I have a request. After this is done, this recording's done, maybe if you find something to post, can you find a picture of one of her cars, her trucks, her cars?
For sure.
Yeah.
I for sure can do that. So Patricia spent a lot of time with her aunt, who was significantly older. I guess there wasn't a ton of kids her age in their family, on their compound, around. I'm not sure exactly why, but so she spent a lot of time with her aunt. She was old for her age, I guess, is kind of, her aunt was older, and Patricia hung out with older people a lot.
An old soul.
Old soul, thank you. So her aunt introduced her to somebody named Bobby, who also loved to race cars and trucks. They hit it off immediately, but he was already married with like teenage aged daughters.
I was going to ask, so he's older too.
Yeah. So they hit it off and they quickly began kind of sneaking around together and dating together. Bobby was a country boy at heart, raised in Jacksonville, Texas. He had 3 brothers and 2 sisters, and his passion was racing cars and working on cars and being around cars, but to make money, he worked for his dad's roofing business. So in 1991, Bobby and Patricia found out that she was pregnant. And he used that as a good reason to divorce his wife, which he did in 1991. And that same year, they welcomed their first daughter, Chastity, which is spelled Chasidy, which was
Say that again, Chasidy.
Yeah,
That's why you said it like that.
Chastity.
Not, people would think, I think, chastity.
Chastity or Chastity, But chastity with a T is how I've always seen it. Chastity is strange. Within 2 years, they were married and had a second daughter whose name I could not find. So the daughters also had a love of cars because they were being raised among, Patricia's family business, the junking of cars and whatnot. Around this time, Bobby injured his back while working on a roof, and it was a bad injury. He had more than 8 surgeries in a very short period of time. He had a metal rod put in his back, and he was basically out of work. So they were at this point kind of relying on, I believe, income from Patricia's family business, where she would help out and Bobby would do what he could, but he couldn't do anything physical, really. In 1994, Patricia gave birth to their third daughter, and during that birth, she was told that she had ovarian cancer, and it was so advanced that there was nothing they could do. She would have to have a hysterectomy.
I was about to say something insensitive. I'm probably still going to say it.
Okay.
Maybe they wanted to have a bunch of kids, and I can only imagine having a major surgery like that and all of that. But also after 3 kids, at least
you got 3.
You got 3?
Well, right.
But I have heard that women who get hysterectomies, sure, it's an very invasive surgery, but also it's like hormonal and your womanhood. I don't know. It seems like a lot.
Yes. Lena Dunham had a hysterectomy, and I remember reading.
Not by choice, but because she
was having a lot. I can't remember exactly. I don't know if it was cancer or not, but she was having a lot of issues.
Yeah.
And that was the solution, I guess. And I think I read an article where she talked about that, she didn't even know if she wanted to have kids or not, and it still felt like she was losing her womanhood by having that removed.
Right. Now you don't get to wonder if you want to.
Right.
Because she was also, Lena Dunham was still in the child rearing age.
Oh yeah. I mean,
and maybe so was Patricia, but
she was. I actually don't know exactly how old she was, but she was young.
Yeah.
But fine. She had to have the hysterectomy. Bobby was actually the one who was so devastated because he wanted a son. And they were going to keep trying until
I was going to say 3 daughters.
Yeah.
Did he have I wonder if he had a son with his previous wife.
I don't think so. I think he had 2 teenage daughters.
Well, that's all his sperm's fault.
That's right.
I don't know, but maybe.
So this put a bit of a strain on their marriage, apparently, because he wanted more kids. She couldn't have them. Obviously not her fault, but
maybe he was unhappy.
He was unhappy about
that.
Right.
Yeah.
So by 1997, we're talking years this man is out of work because of his back. So by 97, he was physically capable of returning to some type of work. And Patricia's grandfather hired him to work as a mechanic at his mechanic shop. And it kind of was like a family thing. At this point, the girls who were still young, but they would help Patricia cook meals for all the guys who worked at the shop and bring food over there. Everyone in this family, this very extended family, kind of played a role in this family business.
It's like a community.
Right. And Chastity, I saw an interview with her, and she was like, my mom and dad were happy. We were all really happy. Things were good. Like, Bobby was recovered. Patricia had beat her ovarian cancer. Everything was good. But it didn't last, because on the morning of February 21st, 1998, the Cherokee County Sheriff's Office received a worried phone call from Patricia. She called saying she wanted to report that her husband, Bobby, was missing. She said he had left the night before when he received a call from a coworker at the shop, Willie Wright. Willie said, "Hey, I need you to come unlock the shop. I accidentally left the lights on and the air compressor is running. I got to get that turned off." Bobby was like, "Okay, no problem." So Patricia told the police, she said, "Bobby left our trailer around 11 p.m. and got in the Suburban and drove down the street to the shop. And that's the last time I saw him. When I woke up, he still wasn't home and the Suburban is still gone." Sheriff, I guess, took down the information. This was interesting to me that he said, "Okay, I'll take down the information. We'll keep our eyes and ears open, but he is an adult. So, we're going to wait a day or two to see if he turns up before we really dig into this."
Yeah.
But Do you think that's because he's a man? Do you think it's the town? Because look, if I called and you didn't come home and your car wasn't here,
They might. Who knows? They might say the same thing.
I guess that's true.
I really have no idea. My thought isn't because he's a man. It's just because, well, actually my first thought, which has no basis because I'm sure the cops didn't know, but like he was running around on his first wife. So maybe he's running around on his second, but I'm sure the cops didn't know that.
No, they didn't.
But
That's a good thought. I didn't even think of that.
you know, like maybe he got drunk at a bar. Yeah, I think less than, I know there's not like the rule of 24, 48 hours,
Right.
but less than 24 hours, I could see why they
Let's
say
give it a
call
minute.
us back in 12 hours or whatever.
That's true. That makes sense. Bobby's family, Patricia and the kids and the rest of the family, was impatient. They did not like this response. So they decided to take matters into their own hands. It wasn't like Bobby did not come home. So they started putting out flyers, talking to people in town, who had seen him. But it was like he had just vanished. No, there had been no sign of him. No one had seen him.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, and maybe the cop did ask this and still it didn't sway their wanting to wait another day or whatever. But like, is this out of character? It sounds like it was.
It was, well, according to Patricia, yeah, it
Yeah.
was. So after 72 hours later, Patricia contacted the police again. And police said, okay, we'll put out a bolo on him and his car. And every time I see that, I want to say, what does bolo stand for? But I can't remember. So I can't ask.
I
her
almost
that.
asked that, but then I said, Jenna, you should know because we've said this
We
a million
have
times.
We have.
Wait, bolo. Something about like all hands on deck, essentially, right? But I thought it was a different acronym. So I could
Be on the lookout.
Oh, isn't there another acronym kind of like that? Like all parties, whatever. Go.
Oh, maybe. You're tickling something in my
Yeah.
brain, but I can't
Anyways,
remember.
Go on.
So they put out a bolo, and later that day, Al Clark, who was not married but in a common law marriage with Patricia's mother, Linda, discovered Bobby's car on the side of the road and drove it back to the house.
Oh, so the keys were in it, or he had a spare
Apparently.
key.
Yeah. So Patricia told the sheriff comes to the house to like look at the vehicle. Like, okay, well, this is weird. Where's Bobby? Here's his car randomly found on the side of the road somewhere. Apparently there was blood everywhere. I saw pictures. There was blood seeping out the back of the trunk down the car. There was
It was a Suburban.
2 to 3 inches of blood in the wheel wells, which I don't totally understand.
That's so like, here's the tire, I'm just going with what I think. I don't know. I'm not a car person. Here's the metal or whatever part. And there's like, that in there.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's a weird place to find a lot of blood, but a lot of blood.
Well, it's maybe seeped out the car and pooled in there.
Yep, that's probably exactly what happened. So this obviously, police and Patricia were immediately like, okay, this feels bad.
But there was no body or
Remains,
Yeah,
nothing.
okay.
Nope. But this amount of blood caused the authorities to think, well, maybe this is a homicide, not a missing person. So they turned to Al Clark, Patricia's stepdad, I guess, technically. He apparently had a criminal background. He had been accused
the stepdad, the common law stepdad.
He'd been prosecuted for burglary and had been accused of, it obviously didn't stick, but murder years in the past. So they pressed him for how he came across Bobby's vehicle. He said I found it by accident in a nearby town of Diboll. It's not very far from Jacksonville.
I wonder if the cop asked, I'm sure he had a reason for why he was driving through that town.
So Al and Patricia's uncle Stephen, they were going to ride their four-wheelers at a piece of property that the family owned in Diboll.
Got it. Can I pause for 1 second?
Yeah. So Al explained to the police that we were going to ride four-wheelers at this property that we own. We saw this Suburban. I said, hey, isn't that Bobby's truck? And they walked up to it and they were like, yeah, this is Bobby's truck. Stephen, Patricia's uncle, said, we should call the cops and get them to come out here. But Al was insistent on driving the car back to Patricia. So investigators asked Al where he was 3 nights prior when Bobby disappeared. And Al apparently said that he has an alibi. He was a truck driver and he was out of town driving his truck, like semi. So then,
But is that can someone confirm that?
well, that's what they were trying to find out. So they took,
Okay.
they took him at face value. They're like, okay, well, now we're going to talk to your wife, common law wife, Linda, Patricia's mom. Linda said that Al had left that morning around 6 a.m. to take a load of timber to Mansfield, Louisiana, which is about 2 hours east of Jacksonville. But around 10 or 10:30 that day, Al's boss came to the house and said to Linda, "Where's Al? Where's my truck and where's my timber?" And Linda was like, "Well, it ought to be sitting in Mansfield, Louisiana by now. He left really early this morning."
Right. He should already be there.
Yeah.
Maybe on his way back already.
And Al said, "Well, the timber isn't there. And someone told me that my truck is sitting down in Maydell, which is a little town about 10 miles south of Jacksonville, not far from Al's home." Linda then told investigators, well, Al didn't ever come back until like 2 or 3 in the morning. So he left at like 6 a.m. that day, was gone all day, all night, and didn't come home until 2 or 3 in the morning. She said he came in and said, "I'm going to bed," threw his head on the couch and didn't say another word, which she said was strange. Like that's not really his like demeanor, like gruff and grumpy like that.
That and
like, where have you been, Al?
Right. Also, this is time pretty much before most people had cell phones.
Yes, for sure.
I mean, some people did in 97,
98,
98, but really
many.
yeah.
And I'm guessing
And you're not texting.
Right.
Even if you do, you don't. Yeah.
Right. So now, even though Al said I have an alibi, I was driving my truck out of town. According to Linda, that's not true because Al now is unaccounted for during that same stretch of time where Bobby basically went missing. And Linda said to the cops, as soon as I saw Al drive the Suburban up with the blood oozing out of the back, I got a sinking feeling in my stomach. I was like, he's involved in something bad here somehow. Uh-oh.
Well, I mean, I wonder, they've been together a long time, right? So he had previously, whether or not he had already known her, been with her, he had previously at least been arrested for murder. Obviously,
Yes.
not proven guilty.
Not convicted of
but
it,
I
yeah.
wonder if he had shared some of that. So
I'm sure
that
she knew.
also
Kicked off in her
clicked,
brain,
yeah.
for sure. So it turned out that Bobby did make it to the shop that night. Remember, he got that phone call from Willie, "I need you to come," and he did make it to the shop, but that was it. He never made it home after that, was never seen again. So this is all confusing and suspicious. The fact that Al's time was unaccounted for, that he found the Suburban randomly. And when authorities then go back to Al after talking to Linda and confront him, and he's like, this is inconsistent. You don't really have an alibi according to your wife and according to your boss. Al became irate and said, I will not cooperate with you any further without a court order and an attorney. And so they were, this was all weird, but it wasn't enough to do anything with. So they couldn't do anything. So that was it. So Al was kind of free.
Also, that's not, I mean, yes, that could make my brain go to, oh, well, if he was so like, not defensive, but like,
Sure.
oh, I'm not speaking. But also, that's just smart.
Right.
Smart,
I agree.
period.
Yeah, you should never talk to the
Yeah.
police without a lawyer. So at this point, they're like, all right, well, who else can we talk to? So they turned to the coworker, Willie, who called Bobby that night to get him to come unlock the shop. And Willie confirmed that Bobby arrived a little bit after 11 p.m., unlocked it. They turned the lights off in the air compressor. And then Willie assumed that Bobby went back home because that's what Willie did. Willie left to go home. He said, I assumed Bobby did. Okay, so there's really nothing else there for the cops to get. So then, shortly after they talked to Willie, they received a call from a very unlikely tipster about another coworker of Bobby's named Michael Fielding. Fielding's own mother called the police. Michael was also called a country boy at heart like Bobby, born and raised in Jacksonville. Him and Bobby had been friends since like grade school. Basically had been come up together in all of their life, had stayed friends, and now they both worked together at Patricia's grandfather's shop. Mm-hmm. Good mechanic, good with his hands. And so Michael had been talking to his mom, and his mom was asking questions about Bobby's disappearance. This is one of his closest friends for many, many years. and saying like, well, do you know anything? When's the last time that you saw Bobby? And Michael apparently lost it, like blew up at her, like, stop asking me so many fucking questions. I don't know anything. And then he stormed out of the house. And she thought this was very peculiar. So she called the police and said, I'm afraid for my son. I don't know if he's involved or not, but like something's off here.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's peculiar too, and I don't even know the guy.
Totally. Like, what if if one of your best friends goes missing and your parent, who also knows this best friend for their whole life, is like asking you questions, like you don't blow up, I would think. I mean, I don't know.
I don't know either. I mean, I don't know. Well, we'll find out.
So investigators immediately contact Michael and asked him to come in the next day for an interview. It was called a non-custodial interview, which means he wasn't under arrest. It was voluntary. He told investigators that he saw Bobby earlier that day at the shop and said, I was home all that night and I hadn't seen Bobby since that morning at the shop. They kept pressing him for like more details, times, things like that. And he quickly became irate again, like he did at his mom, swearing he wasn't involved. But police were kind of going off of how he was acting. He was acting nervous, I guess, from the moment he came in, and then became very angry. And so they were like, this guy is lying to us. We don't know why or about what, but he's lying about something.
Right, because there's no tangible evidence at this point that
Nothing.
links him, at least.
No,
But
not at all.
he's acting
But
sketchy.
he's acting super weird. So they started looking into his background. Nothing criminal, nothing to indicate that he could be dangerous, nothing to indicate that he'd have any reason to hurt one of his like closest friends. So again, dead end. So 2 weeks pass. There's really nothing. They have very little leads, nothing much else to go on until March 12th. So a man calls, and this man's name was not released. Is that your ice?
It's going to go again.
It's okay.
Okay.
A man calls in and says the evening that Bobby disappeared, he saw Michael Fielding and another older man in Bobby's car. And I don't know how this guy got this much information. Like if he was at a stoplight, I have no idea. That was not, I wasn't able to find that. But so this anonymous man calls in and says, the night that Bobby disappeared, I saw Michael Fielding and an older man who seemed intoxicated in Bobby's car. The older man turned out to be Willie Wright. Mm-hmm. So police are like, okay, I mean, who knows if this is true or not, but let's go back to Willie and Michael and start asking people around them and asking more questions, seeing if we can piece together some things. So they came upon a friend of Michael Fielding's who said, actually, I do remember that early in the morning of February 21st, Michael called me and said he was out of gas and needed me to come pick him up or bring him a gas can. And he did. He brought Michael some gas, didn't think anything of it. But at this point, this is mid-March now. Bobby disappeared on February 21st. Mm-hmm. There's news stories, there's news articles, police are poking around. So it kind of like, the guy didn't think anything of it, but then he's now seeing all these, and he was like, oh yeah, well, maybe
this
it's
is
something, who knows? So he told police that.
My first thought, and this was late 90s, so this doesn't apply, but my first thought was, something about why he asked this guy to bring him gas is he didn't want to go to a gas station where there's all the camera. Back then there wasn't, though. There wasn't in the 90s, I don't think. But I've but I've seen things where like people commit a crime or a murder and then they have to go fill up in gas. And so cops check many of the local gas stations cameras. But this was 97?
98.
Yeah, I don't think
we've had stories. I can't remember the name, but I know we had a story.
Yeah, it was
that was a
footage,
big piece. Yeah, for sure. So investigators now are thinking like, okay, so Michael Fielding and Willie were seen in Bobby's car. The guy didn't say if he saw Bobby or not, just them. And then also in that same night time frame-ish, Michael ran out of gas and needed somebody to bring him gas. So they're thinking, I don't know, maybe they both have something to do with it. But if so, why? Like, why? Willie, they all work together. Willie's like 50.
Right. Why target this person?
Right.
They're not having a fit. Well, from what I know thus far, like they're not banging the wife or the whatever, you know.
Right. So like so that was a big missing piece. Like all of these pieces.
The motive,
yeah.
I guess.
But luckily for investigators, Willie got arrested on March 17th, St. Patrick's Day, for public intoxication. And they used this opportunity to really question him hard in custody. They said that, and I saw a picture, I'll have to post pictures of him. He was in his 50s, but he looked like 70. Like he was a vagrant on and off, and he was, I believe somewhat of an alcoholic, and time had not been kind to him.
Plus, anyone drinking all day, let's just assume he was drinking most of the day, St. Patty's, and then you get arrested.
And now they're questioning you about a disappearance.
You're looking the worst you've ever looked. You're feeling the worst. I mean, I don't know.
Of
maybe
course.
he's not, but yeah.
So they tell Willie, they say, we have witness accounts that you were seen in Bobby's Suburban with Michael Fielding the night that Bobby disappeared. And they're really pushing him hard. And he breaks. He breaks down and confesses everything to investigators, and confirms their suspicions that Bobby is not just missing, that Bobby is dead. He said, I got Bobby to come down to the shop. I called Bobby and told him I needed to come down to the shop and unlock it for me. And that was not true. I did that just to get him to come down there so that Michael could jump out. He was hiding behind a car, and he jumped out and shot Bobby in the chest with a shotgun that I gave him. And Willie said, I also helped dispose of Bobby's body. The plan was for Michael to take the body and transport it to like an oil field and leave the body there. They had 2 vehicles so that Michael could ditch the body, and then they could also ditch Bobby's Suburban. But unfortunately, Michael ran out of gas. And they both
Poor
kind of like
planning.
spooked. They were like scared. They were like, oh shit, like this is not how it's supposed to go. So then they got scared. Apparently they didn't even wait for the guy to bring the gas, I don't think, because they just got in Bobby's Suburban, put his body in there, and the first bridge that they came upon, there's a lot of bridges in Jacksonville.
Dumped him
over the side of the bridge with a tire iron and a tire like attached to him to try and weigh him down.
Yeah, but okay, I again, actually, I shouldn't blame this on the late 90s, but like when someone is thought to be murdered, oftentimes
It's 420.
Any body of water, if they have a decent police department, or they're diving down.
Sure. And this was not, I believe this was this was the Neches, however you say it, river, not super, super deep.
Right.
Throughout. Like there are parts of it that are deep, but there is a lot of water in Jacksonville.
I guess they were just freaked. They did the best.
They did the best
quote
they could.
unquote the best they could. Why though? Why? I'm sure you'll get there.
So after they dumped the body, they then went and left the Suburban on the side of the road with the keys in it. They didn't know what to do with it. So investigators had one big question that they couldn't figure out.
Fucking why?
Why had Michael been involved in the murder of one of his oldest and closest friends?
Let me take a guess.
Okay.
A bad business deal gone wrong. I have so many thoughts that are going to be out of this, not real, but bad business deal, or someone owed someone money, or I want to say love. Were they in love?
According to Willie, Michael and Patricia, Bobby's wife, had been having an affair for about 5 months.
Oh, so it was love related.
Yeah.
Love, quote unquote love.
They had been meeting secretly in a hotel called the Southern Motor Hotel in Rusk, Texas, a nearby town. And sometime earlier that February, Bobby had actually found out because he followed them to the Southern Motor Hotel and watched them go up to the room together. Went and banged down the door, kicked the door. Michael opened the door, and the two got in a huge fist fight right there outside of the hotel room. The fight ended when Bobby stormed off, went home, got the girls, packed up, and went to stay at his mom's house. So eventually, and not too long, because this was in early February, he was murdered February 21st. So sometime mid-February, Patricia called him and said, the affair is over. Please come home. Our daughters need both parents. I really want you to come back home. Bobby gave in. He moved back home. This was shortly before the murder.
Well, Patricia, in hindsight, shouldn't have called him home.
She should not have. Also, Patricia was not being honest because the affair was apparently not over.
Also, fine, millions of billions of people or whatever have affairs. I also wonder why. I guess I understand Bobby was the one that was killed. Although Patricia was, they let her, I guess they wanted to keep having an affair.
They wanted to keep having an affair.
Yeah.
So, but at this point, this is all still just according to Willie.
Yeah. So,
which police are believing. It's a believable story. Also, Willie is arrested for public intoxication. He's a bit of a drunk. So they're kind of like, okay, we believe you, but let's check it out. But now they're also thinking a little bit like, well, is Patricia involved? Like, did she know about this at all? Because up until now, they had not suspected her at all. She was devastated that he was missing. She's the one who called in that he was missing. And police, apparently she was, they never thought otherwise. And they really had
nothing
no
about
reason
her
to.
demeanor.
Right.
Sure, people can call in and say, my spouse has been missing, and then they're involved. But like nothing about her indicated any questioning.
No.
Yeah.
So Willie agreed to show investigators where the body was dumped. Unfortunately, remember, like I said, Willie's a little bit of a drunk.
He couldn't get there.
They drove to, now this may have been an exaggeration because before we started recording, I looked up how many bridges are in Jacksonville. And I found something that said like 60, which is still a lot. But I'm talking even like little teeny bridges, when I was researching this, I read or saw somewhere that said that they visited like 200 different bridges.
Yeah.
And they were like, Willie, like, how are you not remembering this? It wasn't until they moved over to a different county, Anderson County, and Willie was like, this is it. This is the spot. It was right near the Neches River. It's spelled Neches. That's why I cannot figure out how to say it.
Neches.
Neches.
I don't know. We should ask Google later.
But Willie was like, this is it. This is it. And sure enough, they got out, looked over the edge of the creek. And even though this was like a month later, there's a body floating right there.
Well, they must have not tied whatever tight enough.
Or they did, but he eventually came up, because
he was up.
And so they got him over to the bank of the river.
Ooh.
Saw the shotgun. He had a shotgun hole in his chest. And police said like it was a very horrific looking scene because he had been exposed to the elements now for a month.
In the water.
Exposed to the elements. In the water there's a lot of snakes, a lot of fish,
Even if there was nothing and he was just, think about it, if you left your foot, swamp foot, from Vietnam.
Yeah.
So, things are peeling.
Oh yeah. Oh yes. It was. Yes. They couldn't identify him just by looking at him for sure. But it was, the ME did confirm that it was Bobby and he was killed with a shotgun to the chest. So then they headed over to the shop, to the property to investigate now because that's where Willie said he was killed. A shotgun that at close range like that, that's a hole. We're talking that's a giant hole and a lot of blood. There was really, it was total. Yes, it had been a month, but they expected, we'd find a little blood spatter here. They couldn't find anything except for they found a couple of leaves that had blood on them, and when they tested it, it matched Bobby's blood. So they were, okay, that's enough to convince them that this was where he was probably killed. Willie was at that point charged with tampering of evidence, obtaining the shotgun, and helping dispose of a body. And then on March 26th, they arrested and charged Michael Fielding with capital murder. Patricia, when she found out about that Bobby was dead and not just missing, she was absolutely devastated. She swore that this was this is kind of weird to me, but she swore she would never race again. Because I guess that's how they met, kind of, was their love of racing cars.
Yeah, it like took it out of her.
So she was like, I'll never race again. She took all of her racing gear and buried it in the casket with Bobby. And she never did race again, apparently. So then investigators confronted Patricia and said, I think they just went to her house to talk to her, like very casually, like, you know, we heard you were having an affair and we want to talk to you about this because we arrested Michael Fielding. She was like, I wasn't having an affair. My marriage was stronger than ever. Definitely not. That's not true. And police were like, okay, but why would Willie make that up? Like, there's no reason to. But they also didn't have any evidence that could say other. Like,
And Willie was kind of tipsy.
Yeah. Always, it sounds like. So they.
But still, let's bring it back to why would Michael say that? Because he could still get to the end point of here's the body, this is this. He didn't have to make up this additional
information.
Right.
Right. So now investigators have the opportunity to sit down with Michael, where he kind of like has to talk to them because he's been arrested. So he readily admits to killing Bobby. And he says, without a question, the driving force behind this murder was Patricia.
Yeah, it's kind of like she maybe hired a hitman even though he wasn't a hitman.
Right.
Yeah.
Michael said, Patricia told him, she said, I don't want to be with Bobby anymore, but I can't divorce him because he'll get the kids. I do not know why that would have been the case.
And maybe it's not even true, but maybe she was just afraid of that.
So according to Michael, Patricia initially came up with an idea to get Bobby arrested by planting narcotics in his car. But for whatever reason, that didn't work out as she had planned. So obviously the next best idea is murder. Michael said that Bobby was receiving disability benefits. And upon his death, Patricia would get like the cash out of that. So she would be getting like about $100,000. And so by killing him, she would definitely get the money and Bobby couldn't get the kids.
Right.
That's why she came up with this plan, apparently.
Well, he just kind of gave her up pretty quickly. He's already arrested.
Very quickly. I mean, like
maybe
immediately.
Maybe he was going to get like some sort of plea deal. But
at this point, I don't think he has anything in the works. He just like gave her up. He said that she threatened to end the affair if he said I don't want to murder Bobby. He's my good friend for most of my life. But she said she would end the affair if I didn't, and I didn't want the affair to end. I mean,
silly sounding, but
love, I guess, you know.
Yeah, but then love, yet he gave her up that quick.
Right. Yeah, that's true. That's very contradictory. That's true. So Patricia came up with
lust.
It's
called lust.
Lust. Yeah, because it was only 5 months at that point.
It's lust.
But so according to Michael, Patricia came up with the plan, told Willie to call Bobby and get him down to the shop, and then Michael would jump up. But it turns out that Bobby didn't drive the Suburban down to the shop. The shop was just right down the street, so Bobby actually just walked. So Patricia had been lying to police from the very beginning. So Bobby just walked down to the shop. And as Bobby walked up to the door to unlock it, Michael jumped up from behind a car, immediately shot him. Patricia called a few minutes after that to make sure it was done. And Michael said, yeah, it's done, but where are the keys for the Suburban? She said, I don't know. They're not here at the house. Maybe they're in Bobby's pocket, which they were. So Michael got the keys out.
Well, that's when I said, what? He just left the key? Yeah. Okay.
Patricia came to the shop a little bit after midnight, and she got the keys, went back to her house, got the Suburban, dropped the Suburban off at the shop so that Michael and Willie could load Bobby's body into the Suburban, and then they took off to go dispose of the body. Michael said, I think Patricia probably cleaned up the crime scene because I didn't and Willie didn't, and it got cleaned up, but I didn't see her do it, so I don't know. And then investigators asked, do you think anyone else in Patricia's family knew about this, like knew about the plan? And Michael said, yeah. Patricia's grandmother, Dorothy, was also in on the plan.
Oh.
Patricia said that, what Patricia told Dorothy and Michael is that Bobby resented me because I can't give him a son. And now every time he gets mad, he would be physical with me and he would beat me. And so Dorothy was like, well, then we have to kill him. So Dorothy apparently gave Michael a box of surgical gloves and said, wear these when you shoot him and do the murder so that there's no physical evidence. And Michael did. But there was also no physical evidence connecting Patricia to this.
Right.
It was just Michael's word. So they couldn't arrest her or Dorothy at this point. But a few weeks later, Patricia's mother, Linda, was arrested because she was caught with narcotics. And when she was brought in for questioning, she said, I can give you some information about my daughter and my mother if you'll talk to the DA and ask them to go like lighter on me with this narcotics charge. She confirmed that Patricia and Dorothy were in fact in on the plot to kill Bobby because she had overheard them talking about it multiple times before it happened. So now this is two people who are saying, who are saying, yes, these two planned this. So this is...
And also two peoples that are willing to just
give it up.
Throw her under the... I mean, not throw... She's involved,
Yeah.
let's say, but still, yeah.
Yep. So in August 1998, Patricia and Dorothy are brought into custody. During questioning, both women maintained their innocence. Patricia does finally admit to the affair. And she said, and when Bobby went missing, I thought maybe Michael could be involved, but I was too scared to say anything. But both of them claim like, no, we did not plan this. We had no knowledge of this at all. And I hate what I'm about to say because I wish that I had more details. There really wasn't a lot of details about this. At the end of the day, they were both arrested and charged with capital murder because police said their stories just didn't add up. And they had this, and what Michael and Linda, Patricia's mom, what they were saying, it did add up. It made sense.
You're saying
I feel like
there's no there's not physical evidence for Patricia necessarily.
Or Dorothy. Yeah, there's no physical evidence. So it surprised me actually when I got to this point in the story, and I was like, they were arrested, but there's like nothing specifically linking them. Yeah. It's just kind of hearsay. But so at this point now, 4 people have been arrested in relation to Bobby's murder. Willie Wright, who, he was not arrested for capital murder. It was just involvement. And then Michael, Patricia, and Patricia's grandmother, Dorothy. They have all been arrested and charged with capital murder. At this point, Patricia and Bobby's kids are Chastity is 6 and the younger sisters are 5 and 4.
Oh, wow.
So CPS now steps in and takes them into custody.
Yeah, because
yeah, literally.
Right, the mother.
Right, all of them. So unfortunately, several months before the trial was set to start for Patricia, at least, and for Michael, Willie Wright passed away, which meant that one of their key witnesses is now gone. And so Michael's attorney, being the smart attorney that he was, knew this is going to make it more difficult for the prosecutors to prove.
It's an opportunity.
It's an opportunity for him to maybe they're feeling uncertain about their case, so maybe they'll give Michael a deal. So he wanted to negotiate to try and save Michael's life, to keep him from the death penalty. And so he negotiated 35 years in prison, no death penalty, but he had to fully cooperate and testify against Patricia, which he agreed to.
Which it seems like no problem, right?
So on April 20th, 1999, Patricia's trial got started. It lasted 3 days. The prosecution presented that the motive was, at the very least, it was twofold, if not threefold. That A, she wanted the kids. She wanted to make sure she got to keep the kids and that Bobby wouldn't get custody. And she wanted the benefits from the Social Security. And then maybe she wanted to keep going with the affair. Who knows? And Patricia's defense team claimed that Michael was lying, that she was not involved, that he was in love with her, and he wanted to end this love triangle and get rid of Bobby so that he'd just be with her. But when Michael took the stand, he was very believable, very clear-headed, and very firm in his account of the situation and the details specifically, that he did this only because Patricia told him he had to.
He stayed consistent with his original recounting of the thing.
And Linda, Patricia's mother, also testified against her and recounted the conversations that she heard Patricia and Dorothy having, planning this murder. So the jury deliberated for several hours, and on April 23rd delivered a verdict of guilty. Patricia did not get the death penalty, but she was sentenced to life in prison. Dorothy, her trial started a year later. A year later, June 2000. She was sentenced. Well, she was charged and sentenced to engaging in criminal activity and capital murder. She was sentenced to 30 years in prison, but she ended up serving less than 3 because the Tyler Court of Appeals reversed her verdict, saying that there was not sufficient corroborating
there you
evidence,
go.
which makes sense to me.
I know that
For
could
the
be said
grandmother,
for
Patricia as well.
Yeah, but there you go.
But Patricia was like married
Yeah.
to Bobby Fair. The grandmother is the grandmother. I mean, maybe she talked about it with her, but like 30 years in prison, I kind of agree with it. I think. And 25 years later, as of present day, Patricia still maintains her innocence. She will be eligible for parole in 2028. And Michael Fielding is set to be released in 2033. And Dorothy Bingham died in 2013.
Huh.
The end.
Well, what did you learn from this story, from this case?
Love makes people do stupid things.
Yeah, that's a good one. I was also going to say you can't trust anyone, even your family.
That's true. I meant to write this quote down. I didn't, so I won't get it exactly. But Linda had been quoted as saying, like, I was raised, my mother, Dorothy, her mother, my mother told me you always tell the truth and it will work out. And I told the truth and it didn't work out for them, but it worked out for me because I told the truth.
Well, and I wonder if she's telling the truth while saying she's telling the truth.
I don't know. I mean, it seems like it's a case that is very largely based on just people saying things. Like,
yeah,
you know what I mean? Like they didn't, I find it hard to believe that something like this would happen today with all the DNA and with all the hair fibers and this
but
and
they
that.
had some of that back then,
They
but maybe they
totally
just
did.
couldn't latch onto anything. And I guess,
I could say like Jenna told me I have to kill Michael.
right. But then I have no idea, but then there'd have to be something that kind of matches up and then other people that say it and you saw me, so-and-so saw me. I have no idea, but
It seems like a very, I don't know the word I'm looking for, like a light case.
not enough evidence to
Yes.
convict in the way they convicted.
Yes.
Although the mother or the
To convict Michael, he
yeah,
confessed.
sure.
But Patricia and Dorothy, you're just kind of going off people's words, and one of them's a drunk, and one of them's your mom. Maybe you don't have a good relationship with her. You know what I mean? Like it just seems like there's a lot of room for, like,
I feel like Dorothy. No,
Linda, mom,
no, Dorothy is
the grandmother.
Patricia. Sorry.
Yeah.
I feel like Patricia. There was no hard evidence. I'm not saying she was as involved as what she got convicted for. I'm guessing she knew something was going on.
Oh, I fully believe that
Yeah.
she did. Like, even I think that this is good. I think that she probably did tell him to do it.
I have no idea, but
in a
it
court of
seems-
law, it seems like it's very light on evidence.
yeah. Well,
But that's
I also want to know, so-and-so, whoever got 30 years in prison, blah, blah, when it says life in prison, does that just mean until you die? You're in there till you die, that we're not going to put a number on it. Okay,
for
cool.
the rest of your living life.
Cool.
But obviously that's not the case because she, in 4 years, she's going to
Things
potentially
can
make
get
parole.
overturned
Yeah.
and shit, yeah.
And Michael Fielding, 35 years. That's crazy. 2033, 9 years he'll be out. If he makes it that long. He's not, that's not even parole. He's set to be released in 2033. Crazy. Yeah.
Well,
So that's the story of Patricia, Michael, and Bobby. And it's very sad for the kids, honestly. I did see an interview with Chastity, who's
how old are they now? In their 20s?
looks like she's about in her 20s. And like it was,
I wonder if they stayed their childhood in foster care or CPS custody,
I bet.
Yeah,
I
I'm
don't know.
sure.
But that it was.
That'll fuck you up in a whole different way.
It
Not everyone, but like, yeah.
it looks like it did. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I'm going to watch something on it
Yeah.
later.
Well,
Good.
right.
That was good.
Yeah, that's our
Welcome
story.
back.
Welcome back, guys. Thank you for your patience and sticking with us. And I'm no longer making any promises. I know I used to be like, I promise you we'll have a consistent episode every week now. I'm going to say, here's this episode, and we'll see you.
We'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens. I'm not going to even say we. I am going to really make a strong effort to.
Yeah, I don't have to make an effort.
To
I
bring
just
us
sit
back
here.
Bringing us back to like how our roots, our original roots, where we started from December 12th.
But don't make any promises.
No promises. I'm just saying I'm going to try.
That's the goal.
That's the goal.
Period.
Yes.
All right.
Straight up true crime. Thanks for listening, guys.
Good night and good luck.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Death by Southwest is hosted by Jenna Schneider and Margot Carmichael.
Executive produced by Margot Carmichael.
Produced by Jenna Schneider.
Audio editing and sound design by Margot Carmichael.
Music by Soundstripe.
And a special thanks to Edward R. Murrow for letting us borrow his famous sign-off phrase, good night and good luck.